Okay, picture this. A world that looks, in a lot of ways, surprisingly like our own. You've got these huge, powerful empires, all linked together by intricate trade routes. It was, for its time, a truly globalized civilization, stretching all the way from Greece across the Mediterranean to the great pharaohs in Egypt. This was the Late Bronze Age, a time of spectacular palaces and a thriving economy built on one single essential metal. And then, in the span of just one generation, it all came crashing down, violently and catastrophically. So today we're diving into one of history's greatest and frankly most terrifying mysteries, the collapse of this interconnected world around the year 1177 BC.
This isn't something from a movie. This is a real message carved onto a clay tablet more than 3,000 years ago. It's a desperate cry for help from Amurapi, the very last king of a rich, cosmopolitan city called Ugarit, right on the coast of modern-day Syria. Now, Ugarit was a major hub of the ancient world, but in its final moments, the king's army and navy were gone, fighting for his Hittite overlords hundreds of miles away. His home was completely defenseless, and this tablet, it was found inside a kiln. It was being baked to preserve it, right when the city was destroyed. The fire that destroyed everything around it is the only reason it survived. It's literally a message from the edge of oblivion, a ghost in the machine of a world falling to pieces. And it sets the stage for a cold case that's been baffling historians for centuries.
So what in the world happened? See, the end of the Bronze Age isn't just one kingdom falling. It's like showing up to a crime scene the size of the entire known world, where entire civilizations are the victims. Mighty empires that have been around for centuries, that seemed as permanent as the mountains themselves, just poof, vanished from the map almost overnight. This wasn't some slow, gradual decay. This was a sudden, system-wide failure.
Now just look at the contrast here. It is absolutely staggering. Before the collapse, you've got these massive, connected empires. You have the Hittites in modern-day Turkey, a military superpower. You've got the Mycenaeans in Greece, the guys from the Trojan War, with these incredible fortress palaces, and they're all part of this complex global trade network, moving goods like copper from Cyprus, and this is key, tin all the way from Afghanistan to make bronze. Bronze was the high-tech material of the day, the foundation of their power. 100 years later, it's all gone. The Hittite Empire vanished. The great Mycenaean palaces, nothing but burnt ruins. And maybe most shocking of all, the very skill of writing, literacy itself, completely disappears from Greece for over 400 years. This wasn't a downturn, it was like falling off a cliff.
This is the question. This is what makes this period so fascinating and, honestly, so scary. It wasn't just one city that fell. It was nearly everyone, all at roughly the same time. And for a long time, we had no idea why. All the written records that could have explained it were destroyed in the collapse, plunging the entire region into what we call a dark age. So to solve this thing, we have to become historical detectives. We have to piece together the clues, the archaeology, the climate data, the few texts that survived, and we have to go after the prime suspects, one by one.
And that brings us to our first and most famous suspect, a mysterious group of invaders from the sea, known to history as the Sea Peoples. For more than a century, they were the official villains of this story. The barbarian horde that sweeps in and just destroys everything. It's a simple, dramatic explanation. But as you're about to see, the truth is way, way more complicated than that.
So here's the first big twist in our investigation. The name Sea Peoples, it's a modern invention. No one back then ever called them that. The term was made up in the 1880s by an Egyptologist who was trying to make sense of these huge inscriptions on a temple wall in Egypt. These carvings talk about a huge coalition of foreigners who attacked Egypt, a coalition that Pharaoh Ramesses III claimed to have crushed. But that modern name lumps a whole bunch of different groups together, and it makes them sound like a unified force, which they almost certainly were not. They weren't a single people. They were a collection of different groups, all on the move for reasons we need to figure out.
And you can see just how diverse this coalition was. The Pelesit, for example, are pretty much universally agreed to be the Philistines from the Bible. The Shurden are really interesting because for decades before the collapse, they were actually working as elite mercenaries for the Egyptians before they turned on them. Their name sounds an awful lot like Sardinia, right? Then you've got the Luca, who are basically known for centuries as pirates from the coast of Turkey. The list goes on, groups possibly from Troy, maybe even from Sicily. This isn't one army. This looks more like a chaotic mix of migrants, pirates, and refugees from all over the Mediterranean.
And this quote from archaeologist Eric Klein really gets to the heart of it. The Sea Peoples weren't the ones who started the fire. They were more like the sparks thrown off from a much bigger explosion that was already happening. I mean, think about it. What on earth could cause so many different peoples, from Italy all the way to Turkey, to just abandon their homes and take to the sea all at the same time? Something had to be pushing them. They were a symptom of the chaos, not the cause. So if they didn't pull the trigger, our investigation has to go deeper. We need to find that bigger explosion.
So let's turn to our next set of suspects. And these aren't people at all. For years, everybody focused on invasions and armies, but cutting-edge science has pointed us to a much bigger, more powerful culprit, a force that no army could ever fight and no wall could ever stop, a massive, long-term shift in the climate. It looks like the entire Bronze Age world was hit by a perfect storm of natural disasters that just ripped the foundations of their civilization apart.
What's so amazing about this evidence is that it comes from all these different independent sciences, and they're all saying the exact same thing. Scientists can drill into ancient lake beds and analyze the pollen trapped in the mud. And in Syria, they found a sudden shift away from pollen from forests and olive groves to pollen from dry, thorny scrub plants. That's a textbook sign of drought. In Cyprus, a site that was once a busy harbor is now a landlocked salt lake. We know it dried up right around this time. Even cooler, inside caves in Israel, they can analyze stalagmites. As they grow, they trap a record of the rainfall from year to year. And they show a massive, undeniable drop in rain right around 1200 BC.
And we're not talking about a couple of dry years here. The data points to a devastating mega drought that lasted for about 300 years. Let me put that in perspective. That is longer than the United States has even existed as a country. This isn't a problem you can solve with stored grain. This is a multi-generational civilization-breaking crisis. It means your grandparents, your parents, and you would have known nothing but hardship and failing crops. That's the kind of pressure that just shatters a society.
And we can actually see the human cost of this drought in the clay tablets that survived. These are like the intercepted emails of a collapsing world. We have letters from the powerful Hittite king to his subject in Ugarit, and he's not asking for soldiers or gold, he's begging for food. This quote comes from a letter where a Hittite official just lays it out. It is a matter of life or death. We see records where Ugarit itself is reporting a famine. When the most powerful kings on earth are writing panicked letters just to get food, you know the system is on the verge of collapse.
And if the drought and famine weren't enough, there was something else. All across the region, archaeologists find cities with telltale signs of violent destruction. Toppled walls, crushed skeletons under debris. Now, it can be hard to tell if a city was destroyed by an earthquake or an army, but the sheer number of cities showing seismic damage in this exact window of time is just off the charts. This has led to the theory of an earthquake storm, a whole series of major quakes that rattled the region for about 50 years. So just imagine, your crops are failing, you're starving, and then the ground itself starts to tear itself apart.
Okay, so climate change and natural disasters. They created the perfect conditions for a collapse, but they still don't quite explain why it was so complete, why everyone fell. For that, we have to turn our investigation inward and look at our final suspect, the very structure of Bronze Age civilization. Because it turns out that its greatest strength, this complex global interconnectedness, was also its fatal flaw.
So here's the deal. The entire system, military, economic, political, was built on bronze. Bronze made the best weapons, the best tools, everything. But to make bronze, you need copper and you need tin. And here's the catch. Copper and tin are almost never found in the same place. So these great empires had plenty of copper, especially from Cyprus. But the tin? The tin had to be imported from thousands of miles away, most likely from modern-day Afghanistan. That means their entire civilization rested on these incredibly long, complex, and extremely fragile international supply chains.
And this leads to a really interesting paradox. You would think the biggest, richest, most powerful cities would be the ones that could weather the storm, but it was the exact opposite. The great trading hubs like Ugarit were actually the most fragile. Why? Because their entire economy was specialized. It was completely dependent on that international trade working perfectly. They were the engine of the whole system, but as soon as that engine started to sputter because of raids and famine, they were the first ones to completely stall out.
So all of this leads to a theory called the death by strangulation hypothesis. The idea is that the collapse wasn't a quick death blow, like a single invasion. It was a slow, agonizing suffocation. As the drought and famine caused chaos, people started moving. Those migrations, which included the sea peoples, disrupted the trade routes. And as that flow of goods was choked off, it created shortages of critical materials, especially that all-important tin. That, in turn, weakened the great empires from the inside out, starving them of the very resources that held their power together.
All right, so we've looked at the suspects. We've got the sea peoples, we've got climate change and earthquakes, and we've got the fragile, interconnected system itself. So what's the verdict? It wasn't just one of them. It was all of them, all hitting at the same time in a deadly cascading systems collapse. There was no single killer because they were all in on it together.
You can see exactly how the dominoes fell right here. First, the mega drought hits. That's the trigger. That leads to crop failures and famine across the board. Second, famine leads to chaos and forces people off their land. That's where you get the mass migrations and the sea peoples. Third, these desperate moving groups start raiding the trade routes for survival. Fourth, those raids sever the supply chains. The tin from Afghanistan can't get to the Mediterranean anymore. That leads to step 5, a critical bronze shortage. Armies can't be equipped, kings lose their power, and that's the final step. Total, system-wide collapse as these hollowed-out kingdoms just fall apart.
And this right here is the absolute key to the whole mystery. Any one of these disasters on its own, the Bronze Age kingdoms probably could have survived it. They'd weathered droughts and pirates before. But they could not survive all of them hitting at the same time. Each crisis made the others worse. It was a threat multiplier, a feedback loop of catastrophe that just pushed their complex but brittle societies right past the breaking point. It was, in every sense of the word, a perfect storm.
The fancy term scholars use for this is systems collapse, and it isn't just about things getting destroyed. It's about a society rapidly losing its complexity. All the things we associate with civilization, big government, huge cities, specialized jobs, international trade, they suddenly become too complicated and too expensive to maintain. So people fall back on simpler, more local ways of living. The world shrinks. Knowledge is lost. Civilization, in a way, takes a step backward just to survive.
So why should we care about a 3,000-year-old collapse? It's easy to look at this as just some dusty, ancient history. But the more you learn about how their world fell apart, the more you start to see some deeply uncomfortable parallels to our own. The story of the late Bronze Age collapse has some urgent lessons for our own globalized world.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It's kind of chilling. Their world was built on the technology of bronze. Our world is built on the technology of the microchip. They depended on getting copper and tin from far-flung places. We depend on getting oil, lithium, and semiconductors from very specific corners of the globe. Their lifelines were ships and caravans. Ours are massive container ships and the internet. And now look at the stressors. They were hit with drought, famine, and migration. We are facing climate change, pandemics, and major supply chain disruptions. The structure of their fragility looks eerily familiar.
The great civilizations of the Bronze Age were the superpowers of their time. They were wealthy, they were powerful, they were deeply connected. To the people living then, their world must have seemed indestructible. In every sense, they were too big to fail. And yet they did. They fell, and they fell hard. The story of 1177 BC is a terrifying and humbling reminder that being complex and connected doesn't make you strong. It also makes you vulnerable. And it leaves us with a really big question we have to ask ourselves. We, who have built the most complex, interconnected global civilization in all of human history, have we learned their lesson? They were not too big to fail. Are we?